Hi, this is Slim Dad here. I'm going to do one of my more personal videos. I wanted to kind of go over what happened with my last relationship with the covert narcissist and touch on how there were a lot of aspects of the relationship and her behavior and choices and stuff that really reminded me of what I've seen in addicts, and also read and actually had friends of families that might have had adult children that were addicts. So when me and my ex-girlfriend went through the honeymoon phase, we shared our dreams and, kind of our life goals and stuff like that. And there was a lot of alignment there. To what extent that was all mirroring, and to what extent some of it might have actually been true, I don't know. 50-50 maybe. But there were things that I'm very confident about that were things that she had mentioned and expressed to me long before an opportunity arose, and also things that she herself made an effort at times in the relationship to work on. So for instance, one of the things that she had said was that she wanted a family. And what that meant for her was having a I don't know, family unit, relatives, kind of that stability of a family here in Colorado, because she's from the East Coast where all of her family is. So she came out here for a job, and so within Colorado, she was very isolated in that respect, especially holidays. I imagine that it was probably odd for her basically having Christmas by herself, when she was used to having it with 10, 20, 30 members of her extended family. And so something that she was looking for was family. And I'm a single dad. I basically, am currently, to the extent that one does, in 2023, raise 2 college-age kids, because my ex-wife, once the children turned 19, they were no longer a source of income through child support. And so she was like, bye, and just basically kicked them out of the house, pushed them out, said, you're on your own. And so they're, living with me to the extent that they are when they're not elsewhere. But anyway, so there's, the family right there with my 2 children. And then I have, my sister's family. My father is still alive. I have a lot of, other relatives, elsewhere. And unlike her, sounds like her family experience, my family, we often do things as a family. It's not just on paper. It's like, okay, 4th of July, let's go buy some beer and get, $400 worth of fireworks from Wyoming and light up this place like it's Baghdad. And that's just something that she didn't have and wanted. And so, when she became more comfortable within, the relationship, and I introduced her to my kids and vice versa, she really kind of went into that direction with being someone who could be part of the family. For instance, Thanksgiving. She made Thanksgiving dinner for the family and the extended family. Christmas, Halloween, we'd both be out freezing our butts off, handing, candy to the children in the neighborhood. 4th of July, as I said. And she seemed that, it seemed like that not only made her happy, but that there was some fulfillment, that's something a little bit deeper. And there were other things like, again, like I may have mentioned in previous videos with, like, say, camping, basically a lifelong dream of hers. And, me and her, or me and the kids and her would just go and do it, and had some amazing experiences camping. Have seen and heard things that we never thought we would in a million years. And again, that it felt to me like that was very something that was very fulfilling to her, to have this dream and actually be able to experience and live it. And then, last and certainly not least, she had always wanted to be in a band and perform. And, I have had the same dream since, I don't know, teenager, early 20s. And we worked together, and I mean worked, and we wrote songs, we worked on them, and we were both, we approach things differently, but to a large extent, we're both perfectionists. So, the stuff that we did, it's not for everyone's taste, but we made sure that the quality was something that we could be proud of. We weren't just going to record crap and then release it to the world. And so that, it was a lot of work, but we started gaining traction. We had a couple of releases on some compilations, I think like 4 or 5. We had been, invited to perform live with some other bands locally. And, we practiced for, 3-4 weeks. Again, we're both very, we enjoy making music, being in a band, but we take it very seriously. And so we wanted to have just a very tight performance, everything work out, perfect when we performed live. And we did, and it was amazing. I mean, it was a bucket list item, I think, for both of us. It was a dream come true. And I know that sounds, silly and a cliche, but honestly, it was a dream that we had for decades. And we worked hard, and we made it come true. We worked hard together and made it come true. And, soon after the breakup, a label reached out to us and said, hey, send us 10 songs. We want to have a release of just, not a compilation, just your songs. And I had to tell them that the band was no more. And so where I'm going with all that is that, if you've encountered addicts, say a parent, a sibling, a friend, that's a pattern that you'll see with addicts, where they will say, oh my gosh, this means so much to me if I could do this. And it might be their dream job or their dream vacation, or, the chance to meet, their hero or something like that. And they'll screw it up. It's the weirdest damn thing. I don't get it. And it's almost like the opportunity is handed to them on a silver platter, and the addict goes whoosh, and knocks it across the room. And it's like they would rather have, they'd rather be a loser alone with their unfulfilled dreams, with their addiction. And again, like, that's one of the things. It's not like that happens to them. They make that choice. No one's forcing them to throw away the dreams. No one's forcing them to be, an addict, or forcing them to relapse or anything like that. They make that choice. And it's like, you can have, and if you dealt with addicts, you can throw all the sympathy you want their way. They're going to chew it up and spit it back in your face. So, looking at, the past relationship and kind of, her dream of having a functioning, nurturing, loving family, like that was something she didn't have and she really wanted, wanting the chance to, do stuff like, just simply go camping and see, elk herds, bugle, and mountain lions screaming till you get goosebumps, and seeing, falling stars brighter than a full moon. All these amazing experiences. And then the band, to literally have music that you pour your heart and soul into, have it be released, picked up by a label, and have people, reach out to you and enjoy the song, and kind of have like an emerging fan base. To have all those things, and again, it's like that silver platter, and it's just knocked away. And for what? For your addiction? And for me, it's like that's something that, with fitting into like the covert narcissism. I think that, there's a lot out there where people talk about narcissism as an addiction. Addiction to attention, addiction to validation, attention to control, and stuff like that. But it's like, at what, a normal person would think like, okay, I value this more than my addiction. Like a family, a band, a life of adventure and security, or do I want my addiction? And and at least in this case, it fits right there, where the way she behaved with the narcissism fit very well with how a person would act with an addiction. It was, all those fulfilling dreams, bucket list items. Hey, that's great, but this is my addiction over here. And so it's just one of those things where it's like, literally, I have to scratch my head, where it's like all the things that she gave up for chatting with guys on her phone, for I don't know, flirting, dating, having like a new supply or something. It's just it's one of those things where it's like it's hard for me to wrap my head around. Again, not because I think I'm like the greatest or anything like that. I'm just saying that it's going from the fulfillment that she had. And the thing is, like, that's you can't fake, at least in my opinion, you can't fake fulfillment. you could see the joy that like those things gave her, and not just happiness, but like an actual fulfillment. To just take that and throw it away and be like, no, I've got these guys I want to chat with on my phone, and so I'm going to throw away all that. It's bewildering. I don't begin to fathom it. But again, I think that that's part of where, narcissism and addiction really line up well in why the narcissist would make decisions that to anyone else just don't make any sense. Where they would make decisions that seem self-defeating, and one, I'll try to make a video on it at some point, but just making decisions that don't pay off in the long run, in the long term. And I think that that's a big one, where like, and other people have mentioned that too, where something about narcissism, there's a quirk where they don't view or experience time the way other people do. And so maybe that's part of it. The one of the strange things that my ex-girlfriend used to say was, the future doesn't exist, so there's no reason to plan for it. I mean, and she wasn't trying to be like vague or be profound. She was expressing that in her mind, the future literally does not exist. That there's, today, and her job, her bank account, and that's it. The past tomorrow, or further on than that, that there's really not much point in any, not only not planning for the future, but even thinking about it. For her, it was just pointless. It was like, talking about the future to her was like talking about science fiction or a fantasy, novel setting. It was not real. But again, like maybe I'll do a video on that at another time. But yeah, I just want to do this video. I feel one of my more personal ones, but I did want to kind of share my experiences with my ex-girlfriend in the context of narcissism aligning very, very closely with addiction, and how some of those strange choices and behaviors and actions that the narcissists take make more sense if you put them in that model and view it as the actions and choices of an addict. So, thanks.